Blessings, you guys. My name is Nolan, and today I'd like to talk about the microcosmic orbit, also known as the heavenly cycle. But let me show you my desktop because my recording device is not very synced up, as maybe you can tell. My voice is a little off, so here I'm just going to show you my desktop here. And this is the front and back channels, and also the channels in the legs for the microcosmic orbit. And also I'm gonna be reading from some excerpts from a book called "The Activating the Healing Light of the Tao" by Montauk Chia. And I kind of wanted to just talk about it, but then I was going over some things and I was like, wow, the information in this book is just so perfect. I think to skip over it or to try to just summarize it would not do it justice. So I took some excerpts, and yeah, I'll just be reading from those in a minute. But yeah, the reason why I wanted to do this video is because well, I feel like I know this practice has a huge amount of benefits, and especially for the Christian community, which I feel like has kind of shut themselves off from these ancient practices of other religions because they thought that maybe it's not from God or whatever. But I've experienced firsthand this energy rising up my spine, and it was it was amazing. It was like this type of bubbling up like joy that it made me think of when Jesus talks about the rivers of living water, and he says, those who believe in me, yeah, rivers of living water will flow from their belly. And it really seems like these practices are also talking about the same thing Jesus mentioned. My wife and I have both experienced healings doing this practice, and it it's a multiform, multifunctional practice that gets you in touch with your energy pathways, with your different chakras, and I wouldn't consider it totally necessary on the spiritual path, but I definitely feel God leading me down this area. And I think it can be very beneficial, for healing, for spiritual practice, and things like that. I would say, that I do think these things open naturally as we progress spiritually, but, not everyone is on that perfect spiritual path. And so to directly activate some of these areas can be very beneficial. It can help us spiritually, emotionally, even with kind of what would you call it, like your dreaming, your subconscious states. I mean, these energy centers and pathways can really help with every aspect of our life. And yeah, it's amazing. I first got into it when studying sexuality, and it's God has answered so many of my questions by studying about this. So it's been a life-changing thing. So basically this is one of the fundamentals of the transmutation of sexual energy, or learning how to use what I would call the base creative force, kind of this most fundamental force within our being. That some of these traditions, they call it sexual. I would say it's more creative. It's just the energy of the lower chakras. It's blissful. It can be orgasmic. It can be sensitive, and it is related to sexuality. But a lot of people are kind of so disconnected from their sexuality that they would reject this or be scared of it or things like that. It's not a disgusting force. It's not an immoral force. It's really a deep force within our being, one of the most fundamental aspects of our being, that some people might deny, but the truth is it is one of the most fundamental energy sources of our being, and we are pulling from this creative or even sexual energy source our entire life. It's related to the kidneys, it's related to many of the organs, and it's just the way that God made us. Really, this energy is God's energy. It's a form of God's energy. and so learning how to use this is amazingly beneficial. So let me go ahead and open up the excerpts I have here. So I want to talk specifically about the exact points of the microcosmic orbit. Really, this is where people should start. And so, most of the information here is taken from The Awakening Healing Light of the Tao by Montauk Chia. And I very much appreciate the work that he's done. It's amazing. And it's absolutely the work of God that he's been doing. You know, he has such a care and a heart for people that he just wants to share this life-changing information. And it's beautiful. So to start off, here are some important points to remember. The more you relax and allow the chi inflow, the more quickly you will master these techniques. Relaxation also helps harmonize the body's energies to achieve the best results in healing. If you are too stiff when you try to meditate, you cannot get in touch with your own healing abilities. But also, if you relax too much, without enough physical movement, your body will feel like it's falling apart and your chi will drain out. So it kind of just this perfect balance, you know, being attentive, but not basically falling asleep. You know, when you're doing this energetic work, you want to stay attentive because it can activate and pull out these energies, and so some instructors will say that this energy can be wasted or lost. I don't know if that's a very good, you know, way to kind of create your reality or structure your reality, as I would call it, but I definitely support, you know, trusting what these masters say about this. So also, relaxing the third eye, mid-eyebrow point, will help you to relax the whole body and absorb cosmic energies into the organs and bone structure. So we'll learn a little bit more about exactly where that third eye point is, but you know, he's just stressing about the importance of relaxation and what they call cosmic energies, which is also, actually they say it's the energy of your higher, or you know, in the Christian movement, we might call it our perfected or eternal self. So it's very interesting. There's so many correlations here. When practicing, smile down the length of the spine as you look inward. Try to see your spine surrounded with chi, you know, this life force energy. You may feel warmth, numbness, or an electric current flowing through your body. So he is referencing the inward smile practice, which I think I'll make another video on. But, you know, it's all just about smiling to yourself, feeling that loving, healing energy that is just, you know, in the simple thing of a smile. So simple and yet so profound. Some of you might want to meditate on the smile of Jesus, you know, or the smile of God, or the smile of your guru, you know, whichever way you're able to engage this personally. That's one of the things that's so amazing about these practices, is really it can be integrated into any religious or spiritual belief system that you have. So number 4, feeling is the beginning of mastery. The inner senses must be developed so they can lead you to the awareness of internal energy. 5. The nerves in the spine serve as conductors of internal sensation. They will help you feel your internal energy flow because they are connected to all the organs, glands, and limbs of the body. Rocking the spine activates the organs and glands through the nerves. The more you remain loose, the better your nerves will conduct the impulses that sharpen your inner senses. And so here he's referencing another simple practice of just rocking your spine back and forth. You can undulate it, you know, kind of like a snake, up and down, and all of this is really, or back and forth, and it's all just activating these muscles, these nerves. And so this can be great to incorporate into a yoga practice, or even just doing this after working out. It's important to kind of warm up your body, stretch out a little bit. You sit up straight, You relax. It's all kind of, I guess you would call it common sense. It can really help to do these basic points. I wouldn't consider them totally necessary, but it can definitely help when you're beginning to help you to get more in touch with your internal energy and things like that. Number 6. By smiling inwardly as you practice rocking, you'll develop an inner balance of the energies flowing through the spine, thereby strengthening the spine and its connections to the organs and glands. This will enhance your ability to feel the organs and their energies. Note, in the beginning stages, you will feel the centers just beneath the skin and facial layers. Along the spine, you will feel them between the skin and the spinal cord. As you become more advanced and more energy and produce more energy, you will begin to feel the centers more deeply within the spine, organs, and glands. Eventually, you will notice their sensations as deep as 1.5 inches inside the body. Or even you'll start to realize how these points are deeply, like you said, deeply connected with the organs and glands. So I'll just continue here. This is an introduction to really what the microcosmic orbit is in general. The flow of chi replenishes our life force. Our body's energy points have both positive and negative poles that spiral subtle wheels of energy. These points serve as focal centers through which external forces are drawn in, absorbed, and transformed into life force. And so here he's referencing how as you get deeper into this practice, you can learn how to absorb energy from nature, energy from basically they call it heavenly energy, from this godly energy, and also energy from the earth. And so the Taoists believe that originally, you might say that back, around in the time of the Garden of Eden, that we were able to absorb energy directly from the atmosphere, that we didn't even need to eat. We were totally self-sufficient on, using our own energy, God's energy, the energy of everything around us. But we have kind of fallen and forgotten or lost the ability to absorb these types of energy. And so opening the microcosmic orbit is one of the first things that we need to do to learn how to to return to this original state. Higher centers, such as the crown, spiral at a higher rate than lower centers, such as the perineum or the belly. These higher centers slow down incoming energy, like the godly, heavenly energy I was mentioning, like step-down transformers, regulating and refining chi for the body's use. And they also work the other way around. They're like transformers, which is kind of an electrical term about how they transform this energy. Low vibrational energy, they transform it to higher vibration, and the other way around. And they do this, for the body's use, also for the soul and even the spirit's use. Each point produces its own quality of chi to attract or repel energy from the other centers, to direct the chi flow in a manner that connects the points, and to supply the proper energy to the entire body. And so this is all a connected system. And so a lot of people will warn on, meditating only on the third eye or only on these certain energy centers, because it's all a united system. And to meditate only on certain centers can cause disbalances. And so this is why doing the microcosmic orbit is so special, because it balances these fundamental connection points to the chakras. It's on the outside, right underneath the skin. So it's actually they're like mini chakras that connect to the central chakra, which is actually on the inside of the spine, kind of right in the middle of the body, which we won't be directly engaging them that's a deeper practice, which which this practice helps to prepare for. Because the energy of the actual main chakras are so powerful that that sometimes it can, yeah, like I said, can cause disbalances when people engage those directly without preparation. Modern science now understands that this flow of human energy is actually an electromagnetic current. The body's many acupuncture channels serve as its wiring, which guides the life force to nourish the organs and glands. Qi is the link between the physical body, the energy body, and the spirit body. Knowledge of the energy flow in our bodies makes it easy to understand why the microcosmic orbit must be kept actively open to accommodate and enhance the movement of Qi. When we do not know how to conserve, recycle, and transform our internal force through this pathway, our energy consumption becomes as inefficient as a car that only gets 5 miles per gallon. By practicing the microcosmic orbit meditation, we can get in touch with our Qi flow and locate blockages or weak spots in its path so we can correct them. This will help us to use our life force more efficiently and achieve better internal mileage. The microcosmic orbit is composed of 2 channels, referred to as the governor and functional channels, which are points of the microcosmic orbit like 2 large rivers with many tributaries. Each channel supplies Qi to 12 subsidiary routes. And so it's getting a little technical, I know, but basically it's talking about the 12 meridians for each organ, which you might commonly hear about, you know, of the in acupuncture. But actually the microcosmic orbit, the governor and functional channels, these are part of the what's called the 8 extraordinary meridians, which are actually, they're almost like spiritual meridians that feed all of the rest of them. So they're very special. They're very interesting. So it says, when the body is weak or ill, it cannot generate enough energy to properly nourish these meridians, which supply Qi to the organs and glands. By drawing in external energy and circulating it in the microcosmic orbit, you can fill these meridians and enhance all internal functions. Very cool. So, we're starting here just with a general explanation of the 2 meridians that make up the microcosmic orbit. And these meridians have multiple points on them that we're going to be going into in more detail, so you can identify them in your own body. Interior location of the governor channel. So basically there is kind of an exterior location which might be right beneath the skin, which is where they would put in acupuncture needles. But the part that we're mainly focused on is the interior location. I would say it's kind of the true location of this path, and it's a little bit deeper within the body. So that's why, yeah, it's mentioning specifically interior. The interior path of the governor channel begins at the perineum, and which is between the legs, but between the genitals and the anus, and proceeds back to the tip of the coccyx. It runs up the outside of the sacrum and into the sacral hiatus, into these 8 holes. We'll go into this in a little more depth in this video and probably other videos, where it enters the spinal column. From there it runs up the interior of the spine and enters the skull. It flows through the back of the skull, along the midline, through basically, through the subarachnoid space along the fascia, connective tissue, on the surface of the brain, but beneath the crown. So basically right under the skull. The channel then descends about 1.5 inches below the skin surface, along the midline at the front of the face, ending at the upper palate. And so this upper palate is where we would be putting our tongue, which you'll learn about later is important when doing this practice. The palate is the top of the mouth. And so, as you'll see in this, the channel does change a little bit. the depth that it goes within the body. And so knowing this can really help to locate the exact point and to really feel the energy travel along the channel. Interior location of the functional channel. It begins at the perineum, as does the governor channel, and runs up the midline at an average depth ranging from 1/4 of an inch at the throat to 1.5 inches. It runs beneath the pubic bone and the sternum, enters the throat, and ends internally at the tip of the tongue. When you touch the tip of the tongue to your palate, this acts as a switch to connect the functional channel and the upper end of the governor channel. When the body is healthy and abundant with chi, many points along the microcosmic orbit receive surplus energy from the glands and organs. As this energy is circulated, it can feed points that are not receiving as much energy. This is how the microcosmic orbit balances the body's energy. When all the points are fully activated with chi, you can proceed to open the 6 other extraordinary channels. We'll talk a little bit more about the tongue to the roof of the mouth later, so I'm going to skip that for now. The navel point location. The microcosmic orbit meditation begins and ends at the navel center. The navel center is located approximately 1.5 inches behind the navel. As you develop in your practice, you will eventually learn its exact location by feeling its energy. So the navel is the belly button, and it can help to put your fingers there, because your fingers, they have a lot of chi. There's a lot of energy there, and so it can help to kind of activate the sensation of each point. You can rub each point in circles, and really try to feel the heat, the warmth at each location where it's described. So you should spend time meditating on each one of these points individually, and then connecting them to the point that follows it. And so it's a very personal practice, of course. You really have to devote the time to feeling these points, but it's kind of neat because you can do it while you're driving, just throughout the day. The navel point is really good for digesting, so if you're having trouble digesting, it's interesting to just meditate on that point, and you might feel how it's a little bit cold. It can be hard to locate it, or things like that. And also if you are having very heavy menstruations or wasting sperm a lot through sexual activity, usually, this is also something that will drain this point and make it harder to feel. And so, this is one of the most fundamental energies that we're sending up and through these channels. So it's really important that you learn some practices how to conserve this energy. So the sexual center, the sperm and ovarian palace, location and functions. So in men, the sperm palace is at the base of the penis, slightly behind and below the pubic bone, about 1.5 inches inside the body. It's between the prostate gland and the pubic bone. And so, this is the second point along the functional channel, the front of the body. This goes a little bit more in depth than I meant to go at this moment. So, switching to this other document here. and so the sexual centers, they have 2 doorways which it's possible to lose energy from. So this is it's an energetic energy, but it's also closely related with the fluids of the body. In this case, the sexual fluids. And so the 2 gates for the men's sexual center is basically the whole of the penis, and then also where the urethra goes inside the body, right around that area. But in general, for men and women, just practicing tightening this whole area, the perineum, the buttocks, basically the anus, this whole area, just learning how to tighten that whole area. It says lightly contract, but really you'd want to strengthen all of these muscles down there. And it helps you get in touch with this area, and it helps to retain the sexual energy in general. And also it helps you not to, for men to ejaculate in sexual practices, etc. For women, the ovarian palace is let's see. The ovarian palace is above the pubic bone, corresponding roughly to the top of the uterus, approximately 1 palm's width below the navel. To locate it, place the tips of the thumbs together at the navel and extend the index fingers, basically downwards, together beneath them, forming an upside down triangle. Where the index fingers meet together indicates the ovarian palace. So it's right at the top of the center of the pubic bone there. And you kind of spread your fingers slightly, maybe a ½ an inch, equally from each other. Let's see, it says here up to 1½ inches inside the body. So it should be behind. It's a little tricky, but it's around this area, around the top of the pubic bone, inside, but it could be up to 1½ inches inside the body, or it could be less. The areas where the little fingers naturally fall indicates the ovaries, so that would be your pinkies. Where your pinkies are, in the same hand position, where your pinkies are over, this is where your ovaries will be under there. And so the 2 gates where it's possible to lose this energy. It says the front gate is at the vaginal orifice, the opening of the vagina, and the second is at the opening of the cervix. Practice lightly closing these 2 openings, opening and closing, and strengthening these muscles. This retains the sexual energy within. And just, so learn how to get in touch with this energy, and the more sensitive you become, you really can even notice when maybe sometime during the day, maybe you're really emotional and you actually realize that your sexual energy is wasting out. It's usually, in cases of low health and things like that. As people get older, this is something they more have to take care of. Okay, so the next point, the perineum, very important point. It's also called the gate of life and death. The location, the perineal center is located between the sexual organ and the anus. This center encompasses other structures and functions in this area as well. Specifically, the anus and the back part of the anus are also related to this point. Here, so let me bring up the picture here, so you guys can kind of, picture this as I'm going through it. I think that'll help you. So we're talking about the perineal center right here. The contraction and strengthening of this point helps to bridge the front and back channels, the functional and governor channels. Sorry, 1 second. Let me fix this here. Okay, sorry about that. Let me see here. Yeah, and so basically, the perineum is one of the points that is the connecting points of both of the channels. The other connecting point would be the area of the tongue and the palate. Those are the 2 connecting points of these 2 meridians. So they're very important points, because basically what you're doing in this practice is learning how to send energy from one channel into the other, and connecting and basically uniting these two channels through over time. The coccyx and sacrum, this is called the immortal bone, is a very important area. All of these points are very important, but it's interesting to see the different names, you know. So the coccyx is the lower end of the sacrum. This is right here. This is, you know, your butt bone. Basically, there's a small indentation there right before the bottom of it, right before the bottom of the sacrum, right in the center. And if you place your finger on it, you can feel that there's this slight indentation, not directly on the bottom of the sacrum, but yeah, it does. I guess the indentation does kind of face the floor. It's right before the very end. This indentation is where chi enters this center. It's where chi enters the spine also. And the sacral hiatus is located about 1 inch up from the tip of the coccyx. This is also the location of the sacral pump, which pumps spinal fluid up the spine. The next point is the door of life, or kidney point, and it's just right there. It's between L2 and L3, these points on the spine. You can see the kidneys here. Next is the adrenal center, or also known as T11. That would be right here, these two centers. The adrenal center is between the adrenal glands, which the adrenal glands are actually located right on top of the kidneys, and between the 11th and 12th thoracic vertebrae. It is often called T11. Place a finger on the spine opposite of the solar plexus. So we'll learn about the solar plexus in a few minutes. T11 protrudes more than the other vertebrae when you bend well forward. So you can see the solar plexus is here, and so these points are basically right across from each other, more or less. You might find a slight difference in your own body, but they're all interrelated. Yeah, so you can see another picture here pointing out a few of these different points. The next is the center opposite of the heart and wing point. That would be T5. The location, it's also known as Jia Pei in Chinese. This point is between the shoulder blades and between the 5th and 6th thoracic vertebrae, T5 and T6. It's opposite the heart center. And so if you feel the heart center, which we'll talk about in a minute, it's basically on your back, directly opposite from that. It can make it easier to kind of feel it, and just take some time, meditate, and try to feel the energy that collects there. The point opposite of the throat, the big vertebra on C11. The C7. The C7 point sits just below the 7th cervical vertebra. If you lean your head forward and run your fingers down your neck, you'll feel a big vertebra protruding outwards at the base of the neck, where the neck meets the shoulders. Just below this bone is the C7 point. The small brain point, also known as the jade pillow or the god mouth. Location: the jade pillow lies at the opening of the base of the skull, above the 1st cervical vertebra, just below the big bump on the back of most people's skull. It is part of the cranial pump that draws spinal fluid and chi upwards. So this pump basically helps to pump nutrients and energy into the brain. It's very powerful. The crown point, also known as 100 meetings. Location: the crown point is at the top of the head along the midline. An imaginary line from ear to ear, connecting the highest point of the ears over the top of the head, crosses the midline at this point. So if you kind of put your thumbs on the top of your ears and then touch your pointer fingers on the top of your head, like it says, at the highest point of your ears. Touch them right on the midline of your head, of your body. And this point right there is the crown. This point is related to the pineal gland and the brain in general. The pituitary point, mid-eyebrow or third eye. The location, the pituitary gland is about 3 inches inside the skull from the mid-eyebrow point. Oh yeah, I just remembered, it doesn't describe exactly where this point is. So really, if you want to find it easily, put your finger between your eyebrows, and you'll feel this slight indentation. On my head, it feels kind of like a slight V shape. And I guess that's kind of the meeting place between the bone beneath your eyebrows. And so there's this slight indentation directly in the center, maybe slightly above your eyebrows. And that exact point is the third eye point. So the pituitary or third eye point is said to be where the spirit resides. The pituitary point is part of the crystal palace. And so this crystal palace is kind of this space in between 3 points on your face, it's kind of a side note, but I'll read it anyway. It corresponds to 3 outer points. The midpoint of the forehead, which would be, maybe about an inch above the pineal, the third eye point. But this corresponds to the hypothalamus. Also the point between the eyebrows, the third eye, which corresponds to the pituitary gland, and the point between the 2 eyes at the root of the nose. And so this kind of this general area, but between those 3 points, they would call the crystal palace, but it's not necessarily it's not necessarily part of the microcosmic orbit. Just the third eye point is what's important. So next, this is a picture of your palate, the top of your mouth, and these are the 3 positions. So the wind position is behind the teeth at the center of the palate point, in the middle of this tiny depression. The fire point. The fire position is farther back on the hard palate, where it connects to the heart and stirs up fire energy. And the water position. The water position is at the front part of the soft palate, at the back of the mouth. It lies beneath the pituitary gland, along the channel that connects to the chi flow of the kidneys and sexual center. Touching the tongue to this point will draw the yin essence of the sexual energy up into the brain. Using the 3 points, if you press the tongue behind the teeth and release it a few times, you will soon feel the chi flow. And so basically, the water point is the preferred of these 3. It's the most beneficial for microcosmic orbit practice. And so you want to place your tongue basically where the hard palate and the soft palate meet, which is back here. But, different people, they might want to try out different positions depending on what type of energy they're working with, etc. But the water position is the most balanced and seems to be the most beneficial just in general. The next point is the throat point, also known as heaven's projection. The location, the throat point is just below the thyroid and parathyroid glands, just above the fosse of the suprasternal notch. If you run your finger down the midline of your neck, it will naturally fall into a V-like notch at the base of the neck and the top of the breastbone, sternum. So it's right there in that indentation in the center of your neck, the lower center of your neck. So below this point is the heart point, and just remember, so it's So in the throat, this point is about a quarter of an inch in. It's just inside of your skin. But at the different, at the different places, it can vary. Maybe a half an inch or an inch. So just learn to feel around these areas and try to locate where your own center is. But really, when you pass the energy through that general area, it's activating it. Any type of practice, any type of meditation you can do on these different points is very beneficial. So don't stress out too much on, finding the exact point right away. So the heart point is an energy center about an inch up from the tip of the sternum, the bottom tip of the sternum. This center is closely connected with both the physical heart and the thymus gland. It is midway between the nipples in men and 1 inch up from the base of the sternum in women. You can see the thymus gland here, a little bit below the throat point actually, and the heart center here. Here's a note. For women, the heart point and its positive emotional energies are very important for women to nurture, so they can develop more control over their sexual energy, menstrual cycles, and spiritual growth. It is also known as the immortal center for women. When this point is open, its energy connects to the breasts, and it expands the virtues of heat throughout the whole body. Okay, and so the final point here, you guys, is the solar plexus. It's just below the heart center, and it says the location. The solar plexus point is slightly above the point halfway between the navel and the tip of the sternum. So it's halfway between your heart point and your navel. This point is related to the aura and to many of the organs. It is a big connection point for the entire body. That's why it's called the solar plexus. It's a huge nerve plexus right there. This is known, by science, mainstream science. Okay, and so that was it. That was the main thing that I prepared for you guys. Hopefully it wasn't too much. I know it's a lot of information, but this is something that I've seen missing on a lot of videos. People will just generally kind of talk about the different points, but not exactly where they are. So this is what we're going to do. Let's practice the meditation now. So I want you guys to relax. Draw your awareness inside of your body. Take a few deep breaths. Bring your awareness to the warmth inside of your heart, behind the heart point. And now bring your awareness down to your navel, right around here. Bring it to your navel center. About an inch. It's around a half an inch to an inch and a half, but between your navel, or from the outside of your body, your navel, to inwards towards the center of your body. Just take a moment to find it there, and it can help to place your fingers or even just the palms of your hands over that center. Place it over your belly button and feel the warmth. Take some deep breaths. And imagine a ball of golden light right there at your navel point. It grows when you breathe in, and it condenses when you breathe out. So take as long as you need to feel a slight heat or energy in this point. And then when you're ready, take a deep breath in and send this energy down the front channel to the palace point, either the sperm or ovarian palace, whether you're male or female. Feel it here. And just try to feel that. It's like a slight electrical feeling. You might feel it as heat, tingling. And really try to feel the sensation. That's important. It's you're doing this in your imagination, but also, especially with practice, you want to be able to feel the energy move down the channel and activate that point. Now we're going to take another breath in, see the chi ball grow. And we're going to breathe out, breathe down, go down the front channel to the perineum, right between the legs. Maybe about a quarter of an inch beneath the skin. Feel the heat there. Now we're going to take a breath in. This time breathe out. But actually, as we come up the back, we're going to be breathing in with each breath. So, in an advanced practitioner, you'll be breathing in and going all the way up the back in one breath to the crown. And then you would breathe out and go all the way down the front of the body to the perineum. And so you just continue doing these cycles like that. But making sure that you hit each point as you go along the way. But since it's many of your first times, we're just taking a breath basically as we go up to each point. So take a breath in and go up to the tip of the coccyx, that little indentation that's there. And you can even try to feel the heat as it passes in between the point. Feel that little channel there open. It might feel like an expansiveness, warmth. Now we're going to take another in-breath up to the door of life point, the kidney point, directly opposite of the navel on the back. We're traveling inside the spinal cord now, that energy. Feel free to pause at any of these points and take a few breaths. Feel the energy there, and you can even pull in a golden light from outside of your body when you breathe in. You can engage with God's energy all around you and pull it into these centers to illuminate them and balance them. Now take another full breath up to the adrenal point at T11 on your spine, or directly across from the solar plexus. Now take another breath up to the wing point, also known as the opposite of the heart center. And just feel the love, feel the expansion, feel the warmth. Take another breath up to the back of the neck. That big bone that you feel at the base of the neck on your spine. Feel it open, feel it expand. You might think of a blossoming flower or an igniting fire. Take another breath up to the jade pillow, right beneath that big bone on the back of your skull. Feel it open. You can imagine the mouth of God opening there. Feel that expansion. This is a very spiritual center. It helps with our connection with the divine, being led by God, being led by something greater than us. Take another breath up to the crown point. And just feel the rest. Don't strain. Feel it open. You might imagine honey or oil dripping down your head as this point opens. Dripping down your entire body even. Take a breath in. Now breathe out down to the third eye point between the eyebrows. Make sure you relax it. Just feel that expansion. maybe about a half of an inch, and just inside the skull, behind that point that you felt with your finger. You could rest there. So we've done the whole governor channel. Now make sure you touch the tongue to the roof of your mouth, especially at this point when we're passing the energy from this channel into the next one, the functional or the front channel. So touch the tongue to the roof of your mouth, wherever it feels comfortable. I'm going to be doing it to the where the hard and soft palate meet, in the back of the mouth. Just take a breath in to the third eye, and now send it down through the tongue and down into the throat point. Take a breath in, breathe out, down into the heart point, about an inch above the tip of the sternum, and that indentation you feel there. Take a breath in, breathe out to the solar plexus. Breathe in and out down to the navel, and feel that warmth at your navel. Place your palms on top of each other and place them over the navel. Feel that energy that you've collected there. And so it's recommended to spiral at each point that you want to collect in. And so you can imagine that there's a clock on the face of your belly. For men, you're going to want to first spiral 9 spirals clockwise, and then 6 spirals counterclockwise, back into the center. So you spiral out 9 and back in 6. And that is for kind of closing and storing the center, storing energy in the center. For women, you're going to first spiral counterclockwise 9, and then clockwise 6, back down into the, condensing it into that center, and just feel that warmth. There are different techniques you can use to spiral. You can just imagine a vortex opening and closing, and feel that heat spreading and condensing on your whole belly. Also, some of the masters and the teacher of this book, he recommends to actually spiral your eyes with it as you kind of just breathe normally and take your time following that chi ball as it spirals slowly around your belly button, on the surface of your belly. But I find that a little bit difficult, and I've really felt success with just taking a breath in and seeing it as it like spirals out quickly, all 9 spirals in one breath, and then you breathe out and it spirals 6 back in, and you just make sure to feel that heat and really engage the storing of that energy. So we're going to stop here for today. Thank you guys for taking the time and learning this. I think it's beautiful. Bless you guys.